Warning: this podcast may contain graphic and triggering content. Please listen at your own risk. Each individual struggle is different, and everyone's recovery and healing journey is different. Please reach out to a certified medical professional if you need help. Welcome to episode 45 of Stomp the Stigma, the podcast aimed to fight the stigma surrounding mental health through education, awareness, experiences, stories, resources, and the vulnerable truth. Joining me to stomp the stigma once again is Tad Milmine. He is a Calgary police officer and the founder of Bullying Ends Here. If you didn't tune in last week to hear a little bit about his charity and what Bullying Ends Here is all about, go back and listen to episode 44 to get a little bit of background on what he does. But this episode is going to be all about his own mental health journey and his own struggles. We get to talk all about his childhood trauma, bullying at school, and then how that eventually turned into self-harming, depression, and even a suicide attempt. Plus, we get into his coping mechanisms and how he's gotten through the hard days, as well as a little bit about his coming out story and the massive, massive stigma around taking medication. These two episodes were absolutely amazing. I hope you guys love this one as much as I do. I know I say that every week, but I really, truly mean it. If you want to contact Tad or donate to the charity or reach out in any way, you can visit bullyingendshere.ca.
Where would you like me to start?
I don't know. Can you kind of share what you went through and how it affected you growing up or even as an adult, I guess?
Well, it was interesting because this is where the whole story ties together on Bullying Ends Here. So the charity was created for two reasons. One is Jamie's story, which was the trigger to bring me back to my story, which the two stories combined forms Bullying Ends Here. So my story was 5 years old, mom and dad arguing viciously, obviously domestic violence as I know it now to be. They divorced. They made that decision to divorce, the right decision. My dad is the one who I went with. My mom went her own way. I didn't see her again for the better part of the next probably 15, 20-ish years. Obviously, at 5 years old, I don't understand what's going on. I just want that utopian fairy tale life. I want my mom to come back home. Dad was an alcoholic. I know that when we hear that word, we cringe when we hear the alcoholic word. We have a lot of negative association to the word. Not applicable to my dad. My dad was very caring, kind, loving. He didn't change when he was drunk. He stayed the same. His challenge, though, was when something was going on in his life and he should have been talking about it, addressing or communicating, he wasn't comfortable. He turned to the alcohol and he hoped that those problems kind of just took care of themselves. So when he found the new woman of his dreams, she was not a very pleasant person. She absolutely hated me. One of the first rules, the biggest rule for me was I was not going to be allowed out of the basement of my house. The basement was a very dark, damp place. And I don't mean dark just as far as like lack of light, although that was it. But very dark as in it was just a very frightening place. It was cement walls, cement floor, one light bulb in the ceiling, and it wasn't even a full basement. I think it was maybe 5 feet tall. Obviously, as a child, I couldn't touch the roof anyways, so it felt like a full basement. But yeah, it wasn't a full basement like we're used to now. There was a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect, a lot of name calling. I held everything in. I was a very introverted. I mean, I still am, but back then I was really, really introverted. A lot of crying, a lot of tears, a lot of really feeling like no one can help, no one's going to understand the repercussions of what I was doing, of holding it in and disciplining and punishing myself. Was I began struggling with mental illness, unbeknownst to me. I didn't know, but looking back, it was very obvious. The only time I was allowed to leave the basement was to go to school. But school, the kids at a young age, they also figured out that I cried all the time, terribly introverted. They also discovered that my trigger was to call me bad names. I cried, and it just kept going on. It manifested itself through the years of school. It started with name calling, as most incidents of bullying does. It does start small enough to use that word as far as spectrum. It was small because if I had stopped it at the very first time I was called a bad name, I wouldn't have suffered from it. The bullies, as they would eventually become, would have learned lessons and accountability. It wouldn't have been ongoing, which then turns into bullying. But I didn't address it. I hoped it went away. I buried my head in my arm, crying all day. The bullying led to full-on assaults. And by the time high school was over, that's when I knew things were really going downhill. At 17, I ran away from home, went to the government for help. I was immediately put into protective custody. The government put like restrictions or rules. I was never going to go back home again. They protected me. They saved me. They provided for me. They gave me a place to be, but it was just me. So I had to learn how to be Tad, whatever the Tad was going to be. I had to learn all that. My challenge was, however, that I wasn't addressing the mental health aspect. So I was suffering drastically when it came to mental illness. Looking back, I know I was severely depressed. I had suicidal ideations. I was self-harming. At 21, I attempted suicide. I didn't leave any notes. I didn't make any phone calls. I didn't leave any hints or messages to anyone. I went home and I truly wanted it to end. Looking back on my life in that moment, that night, there would have been no convincing me otherwise. But as I now can reflect upon it, pardon me, with life experience, especially with being the role of a police officer as well, is I realized that that moment that triggered me that day was so small, so trivial. But in my moments of that day, of that timeline of my life, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. I had allowed all these small little things to keep weighing on me to the point I broke. Thank goodness I was not successful. I woke up the next morning so there are no words. I was angry. Let's just say that. And that was my moment, knowing that I was going to invest in myself. I was going to invest in my health. I was going to invest in my well-being. I was not going to allow myself to be walked over, abused, used, neglected anymore. And I wasn't going to allow myself to do that to myself anymore. I began getting professional help. Greatest thing I ever did. And as time goes on, I still do those check-ins, as I call them. I do the tune-ups. I still see a psychiatrist, or nowadays talk to one, every 2 weeks. I have for 8 years now. It's the greatest thing. It's a safe place. It's a trusted place. It's an open space for me, and it's awesome. So I've come a long, long ways. The dream of being a police officer is arguably what kept me strong enough to survive it all. Because as a little boy, when I was having my bad days, which was multiple times every day, I was always envisioning being in a position to help the little boy Tad. And so here I am as a police officer, able to help the little Tads out there, or even grown-up Tads. So being in the position that I am, it really is an honor, because it's not lost on me the ability to reflect and understand with victims when I'm at the scene, saying, you know what, it's okay. I've been there. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to trivialize what you're through or tell you it's nothing important. There are bigger things in the world. I'm there to understand and listen. And I think that's what makes me the best version of Tad that I can be today. And tomorrow I aim to be even better than today. That's my challenge that I put out to myself, that tomorrow I'm going to be even better. I'm going to be stronger. I'm going to be more effective. I'm going to be even more resilient. So it's not done. It's forever going to be a work in progress, just like the charity is, just like life is. But yeah, I am where I am today, and I'm overall very content. I think would be the word.
I resonate with your story so much. That's so crazy to me. Just when I was younger, like I've been battling depression and BPD since I was 9 years old, and I bottled up my emotions for my whole life. I was super, super introverted. I didn't talk to anyone in school, and so I got bullied for that. Now I'm still introverted, a lot less so, obviously, but wow. I resonate with your story so much. And I think a lot of people bottle up their emotions and kind of hide that side of themselves because there's such a stigma and fear of maybe hurting even more or making it worse for yourself. And for me as well, my family didn't find out about any of my struggles until I was in my 20s, early 20s, I would say. And at that point, I also had reached kind of a breaking point, and it was almost too late.
Yeah.
So, wow, I'm so glad that you're able to share your story now, and we can even have these like open, real, raw conversations.
I agree.
So,
We need more of them. I think as
absolutely.
adults, we are excellent at telling young people how life is. We're
Yeah.
excellent at it. But the key word there is telling. It's not right.
Mhm.
I was told all through my life what life was going to be like. You were told all through life. You're told not to smoke, not to do drugs. What do we do as young people? We smoke, we do drugs because we're told things. We're told it's bad, but
Yeah.
we need those life experiences. We need to find out for ourselves. We need to learn.
Yeah.
And I think that it kind of connects what you and I were saying earlier about what's different about what I'm doing compared to other anti-bullying or mental wellness workshops that are out there. And I don't go to any others, so I can't say this is a fact. I can say my understanding is simply the fact that I'm not telling anyone anything. I'm showing them. It's they already know. Kids have already been told, don't put bad things on the internet. Well, what are they doing? They're putting bad things on the internet. So I'm showing them why adults have been telling them all along. And I think when you show young people, no matter your age, I mean, I'm 48 years old, and I'm resonating with an 11, a 12-year-old in school to the point that they want to message me and share their story. It's not an age thing. It's the fact that even a young person can resonate with a young person because of the fact that we all have experienced the same emotions. And it isn't trivial. We can't tell an 11-year-old, don't worry, things will get better. We've all heard that. I understand it, and it is accurate, but that's not good enough. We can't pat a young person on the head and say, don't worry, Ricky, things are going to get better. That doesn't help the young person. That's talking about the future. Young people are afraid of the future. They've never been in the future before. They only care about today, right this moment.
Yeah.
So it's fine to say it's going to get better, but we need to follow that by saying, but Ricky, you and I need to sit down and let's learn a little bit more about this and ask those open-ended questions. How did it make you feel? Has this happened to you before? What can I do to help you? Things that we're going to start empowering that young person with the very essence of what the bully took from them, and that is the sense of empowerment. That's the first thing a bully steals from a victim is empowerment. So we need to start instilling it back into that young person, the victim. So if we start saying things like, you know what, I will do whatever you want, but what is it that you think that I can do to help you? Let's make a plan. Let's make a follow-up date. So it's not just open-ended and we'll just meet up whenever. It's, you know what, hey, can you come back and see me tomorrow at some point? Or do you mind if I, check in with you by email or whatever the youth prefers. So it's logical, it's sensible, it's achievable, but we just need a lot more of it because we got to break down these stigmas. It's I talk about taking a little white pill every day, and I use the example. See this little white pill in my hand, and to some, in fact, to many, it's like it's a white pill, but in fact, to me, it represents strength, courage, resilience, because that white pill didn't get in my hand because of fluke. It's in my hand because I invested in myself. I self-evaluated myself to know that, you know what, I better talk to someone. So I invested to the point that I spoke to someone to the point that they heard and understood. They did the testing. They came up with diagnosis. They provided me medication. We followed up to make sure the medication was working. We do check-ins as far as therapy is concerned. So that little white pill symbolizes an awful lot more than just a white pill. And I think that's the important part is that, again, not telling, but it's showing. It's putting some substance to the words that we're saying, and in fact, we're using actions. And actions, one of my mottos in life are words are hollow. Words mean nothing until you show me, prove it to me that your words are serious, are genuine. Because everyone's going to say things like, "Oh, I want to make the world a better place. Oh, I want to solve bullying. I want to solve world hunger. I want to solve homelessness." Lovely words, but we all say it. Yeah. My question would be, prove to me, show me that what you just said is accurate. So what have you done to help the homeless population? Have you made a sandwich? Have you made a donation? Have you done something? Have you let someone into your home? Have you, there's a lot of things as individuals we can do. And yeah, we're not going to solve homelessness, but if we solve or help just one person, then that's the way we need to be looking at these big societal problems. Is think smaller. Think about the individual. Everyone has a different story. We can't just, put one big tarp over everyone and say, this will fix your issue, because it's not. It may fix a couple, but it's not going to fix the problem overall. We're still going to have homelessness until we get to the roots of the individual's challenges and issues. And we do that by listening and learning.
Mm-hmm. You do share a little bit about your battles with, you have PTSD, anxiety, and OCD, is that right?
Yes.
Do you think that
anxiety we spoke about, that's every day. That is what my little white pill helps a lot with. It's kind of just knock down those highs and lows as far as moods are concerned, especially on a presentation day. It's or a work day as well. It's the pill really helps with just balancing my mood, essentially. PTSD just recently diagnosed with, but I knew for a long time I've had it. I was already getting treatment for it. Pardon me. I was already getting treatment for it. I just hadn't gone through the testing for it. But the testing for it and having the label didn't change anything for me. There was nothing additional that I was going through. So that was just the continual learning and growing about myself that I went through to continue to invest. Mm-hmm. And OCD has always been there. Just that everything needs to be perfect. I can't have anything outstanding in my inbox for emails, for instance. I can't. I'd much rather work all weekends to make sure that Monday is just another day than I would knowing that on Saturday, Sunday, my workload is just piling up, because that work is people's lives. It's people's feelings and emotions, their circumstances. I can't just be treating it like some people treat paperwork, for instance. I have to remember, there's a human being behind the work that's piling up. So I'd rather just deal with it as it comes. So that's why I was saying it's really hard to turn off the bullying ends here, or the policing, or the just Tad, because they're so intertwined. They're always on. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that any of your mental health battles are kind of a result of your childhood? Or what is your take on that? There's a kind of a nature versus nurture debate on the mental health and mental illness sources, I guess.
Yeah, I would say all of them are related to my upbringing. Depression, OCD. I can almost tell you the moments where all of them would have come from, because when I think about perfection, I think of everything has to be perfect. Yeah. I reflect back to being the boy in the basement. And if I had left something out, if I hadn't dotted an I or crossed a T, I was going to pay a severe price. So the OCD came from that needing to always be perfect. I had to have everything completed. I couldn't leave anything undone, even if I was tired, even if it was a moment. It needed to be done now and immediately. PTSD kind of speaks for itself. It was, what I went through is pretty natural to have some PTSD or a form of it. And anxiety, I think that's just ingrained in me, on always trying to be kind, but not in the way that you and I were just speaking. I go back to being the boy in the basement. The kind always had to be, I had to monitor every word I said, every look I had, because if that woman had seen or sensed anything, again, the severe consequences. So it was always having to be on, always having to be perfect, always having to be really mindful of what I'm doing. So I think all of that translates into who I am today. I found positive ways to do it all, of course, but yeah, it's my mental illnesses are all can all be tracked back to childhood. The PTSD is more. I mean, it's from the line of work. I mean, I think to a certain degree, any frontline police officer, paramedic, people that work in jails, firefighters. I think we've all got a certain degree of PTSD because you see things that human beings are not meant to see. You experience things that human beings should not be experiencing. Not on the degree we are. I mean, I'll go to 12 very serious calls in one shift. So whether that's a child struck by a bus, whether that's a car crash and some people are seriously injured or maybe not with us anymore, whether it's someone struggling with mental illness, whether it's someone that's just committed an offense, whether it's someone that down in luck, down and out on life. It's you're going from grief to grief to grief, and it's bound to weigh on you because you're not supposed to do these things. You're not supposed to do that, and you become I know if anyone listening right now knows the word I'm trying to say, dehumanized, desensitized to what you're seeing. I mean, I can go and see a body and it not affect me at all. And obviously the family that's right there with the loved one that they've lost are out of control crying. Yeah. They're heartbroken. They're not themselves, and totally understandable. I was that way at one point in my life, but now it's not to say I'm heartless or anything like that. It's to say that it's my everyday job. You know, it's if I was to be emotional at every call, I wouldn't make it very long in this line of work. It's you still have to be human, but yeah, the emotions, they kind of just naturally get tucked away when you do this frontline policing that I'm in.
So do you think that your illnesses is something that you're going to battle with for your whole life? Or is that something,
Absolutely.
Because you developed them when you were younger, is there a possibility of also getting rid of them again? Or you don't think so?
I don't think so. And so to tie that last piece together about the trigger that I had when I was reading about Jamie for the first time is up until that moment, I had basically buried my past. I had accepted it. I had moved on.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything in my life that I was needing to, like, it was coming back. It wasn't in my dreams. It wasn't in my daily thoughts. It wasn't in conversation. Like, my past was in my past. I don't see anyone from my past. I don't have those reminders. So it was all gone. And then I read about Jamie and everything came flooding back. So I had to learn really quickly how to accept it, how to embrace it, how to own it, and find a way to turn it into a positive. And it's not from anything magic I've done. I actually contributed to the youth that message me at night that are saying, hey, you know what? It's thanks for sharing. It really helped. And I think that's one thing that means so much to me is because they are lifting me up. They are reassuring me that it's okay. They are reminding me that what I'm doing is what I'm meant to be doing. It's helping. It's resonating, and I think that's so important. So yeah, in a way, it may sound weird, but I don't want to be perfect. I don't want to be 100% because I don't ever want to lose the passion. I don't want the fire to go out. I don't want to just be sharing my story from a simple memory. I want to be sharing it because I'm reliving it in my mind with every presentation I do.
Wow.
Probably not the healthiest thing to do, but I know what I'm doing, and it's worth it for me. It's not for everyone, though. I would not recommend reliving your trauma on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times a day. But for me, it's just become a part of my regular routine. And when I'm doing a presentation, Alana, in the back of my mind, I'm doing my grocery list. I'm doing going through what I need to do for the rest of my day, even though I'm coming across to the audience of I'm really passionate. I'm really frightened again. I'm experiencing, I'm reliving it. Fact is, I'm really not. It's I've just pushed play on the tape recorder, and that's aging myself, I know. But I basically just push play, and it goes on autopilot, and I'm off in my own little world. So I don't really relive it, but it has definitely come back in the dreams at night.
Yeah.
And they aren't nightmares. I wouldn't even call them night terrors. I would just say they're just bad dreams. It's I'm always the boy in the basement, but it's it seems that as time goes on, it's almost like I know in my dream that it's a dream, so they don't frighten me as much anymore. And again, I don't want them to go away because it reminds me of what it's like to be, for me, the boy in the basement.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what coping mechanisms have helped you through your hard days, and have those changed over time as you yourself have changed and kind of understood what you're going through and what's happening to you?
My coping mechanisms, I think, to a great extent, I've I don't know if I've almost just buried a lot of things in my life because I stay so busy that I don't acknowledge some of the things. I almost try to ignore them or block them out. So for me, one of the biggest challenges I have, and I've had for as long as I can remember, is trust. And I don't mean trust as far as like a best friend or something like that. I mean, that's fine. I'm talking about allowing someone into my life to know the real Tad. I mean, there are very few people, in fact, I can count on less than the fingers of one hand, that would be able to truly tell you who Tad is. Partly because I don't even know who the real Tad is. I've just immersed myself so much in wanting to help those that need the help the way I needed help years ago that I haven't. I mean, I speak to my therapist, and it's lovely, and I'm very open and honest when we're speaking because again, it's an investment. But at the end of the day, it's I haven't really experienced who the real Tad is. And so you and I were talking about the trip I was just on for the last 2.5 weeks. I think that was one of the only times that I can remember, at least in my adult life, where I really experienced Tad. And it's the company that I was with really helped with that. We spoke a lot about mental wellness. We had a lot of time to go for walks on the beach and just talk and learn about each other. And it was great. But the trust, I mean, I don't have any secrets anyway, so I don't really have to worry too much about trust as far as someone's going to take my words and use them against me type of trust. It's more just the letting someone in. I don't do it. So to say what my coping mechanisms are, I guess in a way it's keep myself busy. Try to almost stay out of my own head because it can be a very busy place. So I try not to allow myself to have very much time to sit and contemplate because I tend to overthink things, and that's never a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think I do the same thing.
Yeah. Keep yourself busy.
All right, this question might be a little bit difficult. I've heard the comparison being made between coming out to your family and friends about mental health and mental illness and coming out in terms of sexuality. Now, I know that the two are obviously very incomparable, but like, what is your take on that? And as someone who is a part of the LGBTQ community and has maybe experienced both sides of that, like, how do you feel about that comparison? And do you find it kind of offensive or insensitive at all?
I mean, I have to say, I get asked a lot of questions in my, I've never, not only have I never been asked it, but I've never even heard of the comparison. So I can only speak on my own experiences.
Yeah.
Coming out was an experience that anyone that's ever come out would truly appreciate. That up until the moment of coming out, you're frightened, you're alone. It doesn't matter how much support and love around you have, you still feel those. You feel, and it's to the extreme. It's not just you feel lonely on a day. I'm talking you're sinking and you're diving, and you become so afraid that you don't even want to be looking in the direction of a rainbow because you think that someone's going to see you looking at the rainbow and then they're going to assume you're gay. So like you're just playing these out over and over and over in your mind. And again, I'm going from personal experience, not from the way it might be for youth nowadays, but I do know that a lot of that root pain and fear is still there to this day. I think it always will be, because there's a certain part of coming out and understanding yourself that it's not just frightening as far as going to talk about it with someone else. It's frightening for ourselves as individuals to acknowledge it, to recognize it, to understand it. And especially because, we're told that our brains aren't fully functioning until 25 years old. There really are phases in our lives that we go through that maybe we are just experimenting, and people are putting labels on us, or we as individuals feel we need to put a label on us. It's the hot topic of the week or month or whatever going on at school. So for me, when it came to mental illness and talking about that, I mean, I was an adult at that point. So there wasn't anyone to need to share that with. It's only been since doing Bullying Ends Here do I talk so open, and even that has just been kind of a gradual progression that I just realized that we're starting to have more conversations about it. So maybe I should be more open about it. It's not that I was ever afraid to talk about it, but I certainly didn't feel the same way talking about mental illness as I would have the way I felt when I was coming out. So from my experience, I would say there's no comparison, but at the same time, we're still talking about similar feelings and emotions. So I guess one could say there is a connection there, or some relevance, but I personally don't think they're the same thing. They're different. And in order to say the struggling with mental illness, I mean, you can't put a label on yourself, whether it's OCD, depression, all those things, unless a professional tells you that this is the diagnosis. I mean, it's easy to self-diagnose. You can go on the internet nowadays, check all the buttons, and it comes out with your diagnosis. But that is not reality. That is the internet. That is somebody is making stuff up and people are buying into it. We still need doctors, professionals, therapists. They're the ones that can give the diagnosis. So what I'm getting at with that is that you, in fact, had to share with somebody that you're struggling before you're even able to share with other people that you're struggling with mental illness. Whereas coming out, once you tell one person, you best be prepared for the world to know, because humans suck at keeping secrets. It doesn't matter how much that person loves us. It's not about love. It's about human beings are not very good at keeping secrets. And sharing something so big about ourselves, it's hard for anyone to keep that as a secret. It just is.
Wow, that is such a good point.
So in order to be diagnosed with a mental illness, you had to have told someone. In order to come out, it's you don't get a test. Your closet door is swinging open, as they say. And when I came out, that closet door, it blew off the hinges. There was no stopping me. And I hear this over and over and over again from young people, especially when they share what they're going through or they went through when they were younger and they came out, was, and this is not to take away anyone's story that went the negative route. This is about those that honestly felt it was going to be negative and turned out to be very, very positive. And when they told that one person who they were so afraid to tell, typically it's a parent, and the parent loves them, the parent embraces them, the parent does it the right way, I mean, that closet door is flying. That young person is going to tell people. Mom and dad are going to tell people. My mom got on the horn as soon as I told her. She began calling the entire family to tell them. It's, once you tell one person, it's as much as it's supposed to be our own story to share, you don't really have very much ownership over it at that point, because people talk, and they talk a lot. And now social media certainly doesn't make it any better.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 2 questions that I ask pretty much everyone that comes on the podcast, and then that is it. Looking back over your journey, is there any advice that you would give your younger self, or any advice that you kind of wish that you would have received when you were younger?
Yeah, I wish someone had done what I'm doing today. I wish somebody had just showed me there is a way through it, showed me there is a bright path. showed me that resilience is possible, showed me that achieving a dream is real. Dreams are not meant to be dreamt. They're meant to be achieved. I wish someone had showed me those things, but obviously nobody did. So it's, but schools have come a long way since I was in school too. So it's not to paint the school districts or boards or families with the same brush that I experienced. That was 25 years ago. We've come a long, long way since. So yeah, if I could talk to my little boy self, it would be invest in yourself, speak up, reach out, um, and to really know that it does get better. It really does. But it only gets better if you as an individual, in this case, if Tad allowed it to get better. Because so oftentimes in life, I was my biggest barrier. It wasn't other people. Somebody can't make me feel sad. I can only allow myself to feel sad. Someone can't make me feel mad. I can only allow myself to be mad. It's no one else is responsible for my emotions. It's me. And it took me a long time to understand that. Yeah. Granted, there are extenuating circumstances where people can hurt you, people can harm you, but I'm talking about, at the end of the day, it's sadness, hurts, pain, all those things. Emotions are from within, and oftentimes they're connected to an experience we've had in life that reminds us what it's like to hurt. Why do we cry? Why when somebody says something mean about us, why does that pain us so much? When in fact, that person's spreading lies. It has nothing to do with me. It says nothing about me whatsoever. It says everything about the person that posted it. Mm-hmm. But yet I'm the one that's going to hurt. And the person that posted it is going to go about their day.
Yeah.
It's backwards. So we need to just remind ourselves that we're worth the investment. We just got to take that step back and ask ourselves, why are we feeling this way? Nobody made me. Yeah. I've allowed myself. And maybe that goes back to the walls I put up. I protect myself really, really well. And I still have weak moments. I still have people that have done something, and I allow myself to be hurt and sad and pained or stung, as I call it. But at the end of the day, I'm in charge. I'm in charge of my life. I'm in charge of my emotions. I'm in charge of how I feel. So you got to make the investment every day, over and over and over again.
Oh, I love that one. That's so good. Okay, my last question is there a stigma or a misconception surrounding mental health that bothers you the most, or that you hear most often but isn't true?
I think the one that I hear a lot is coming from young people, and it's about medication. It's there are a lot of adults out there, and I'm even going pre-COVID, so I'm not talking about vaccinations or any of the triggering discussions that are going on now. I'm talking about Tylenol for a headache. I'm talking about antidepressants. I'm talking about all these medications that are out there that can really, really help, that can really make a difference, that can help balance us out. We're all not born the same way. Our minds are different. Our abilities to cope are different. Our life experiences are different. So I've heard it time and time and time again from young people, I will not take medication. Who am I to say you need to? I just say, you know what, hey, you're entitled to whatever you think. And obviously it's a young person, so it's not what they think, it's what they've been told. I just share with them, you know what, here's what I did. And I think it's very silly that if there is a little pill out there that I could take every morning that would help make a positive impact on my life, and I chose not to take it because of what other people are going to think, when at the end of the day, no one's going to know that I'm taking that pill unless I tell people I'm taking the pill. So it's I just find it so intriguing when people, they're asking the questions, how can I feel better? Why do I feel the way I do? But then an answer is provided, and in fact, to some, a solution is right in front of them. But no. I don't want medicine in my body. It's like, okay, well, what's wrong with medicine? I mean, food is medicine technically, because if we don't eat food, we're not going to feel so well. And the fix to it is we eat. If we don't eat, we're going to get violently sick, and we're not going to last very long. So we need these medicines. And where these stigmas became attached to medicine, I don't get it. When we're broken, we break a bone, Nobody says, no, don't give me that painkiller.
Yeah.
We're like, give it to me now. It's, well, that's medicine. It takes away the pain. What's the difference between a broken leg and a broken mind? It's, if you can fix it by way of medicine, I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I don't understand it, but I can say from my perspective, I'll take the pill anytime.
Mm-hmm.
It works for me.
Oh, that's a really good one. I love that question because the answers are always different. And I've never heard that one, but that's a really good one. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Take whatever it's going to take. Invest in yourself. It's mental illness. I don't think you'd have to ask a professional, but from my experience, it's not going to go away on its own. It's you can't think your way out of it. You can't fake your way out of it. You can't keep yourself busy to get away from it forever. It's there. You're broken, and that's okay. It's okay to be broken. It's even better to recognize that you're broken and get the help. Get the assistance. I don't think that's a sign of weakness whatsoever. I think that's a very positive step. It's a sign of courage, of strength, of resilience. And you can't do those things if you're not going to take the brave step to originally reach out to somebody that can actually make that positive difference, that can actually help.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is all the questions that I had for you. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on that we didn't?
Oh gosh, I think we've touched on even more than I thought we'd be touching on. This is lovely. I love the open concept of sharing and kind of just the whole let it flow and go wherever it's going to go. And I think we touched on way more than I even thought we would. So, kudos to both of us.
Yeah, I feel like I could talk to you for hours. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to talk. It's therapeutic to talk. Mm-hmm. So I applaud you for reaching out, for wanting to talk, for providing the platform to talk. It's teamwork. Everything I do is not because of me. It's not because of Jamie. It's because of a team, and you're a part of that team. You're sharing the message, and like I said, it leads to something. And today's discussion is going to lead somewhere. I don't know where, but my arms are wide open, looking and waiting for it to happen. It's exciting.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
If people want to reach out to you or have more questions for you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Always on the website, bullyingendshere.ca. It has all the links that takes you to all the social media platforms. It takes you to support and guidance. It takes you to the Contact Tad Youth Advisory Board, like everything, financials, donations, sponsorships, our records, everything is on that website. So bullyingendshere.ca.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Feel free to reach out at any time. You can contact me on Instagram and Facebook at Stomp the Stigma YYC, and you can email me at stompthestigmayyc@gmail.com. If you like the podcast, please like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. And if you or someone you know would like to come on, I would love to have you. Share your story, speak your truth, and together we can stomp the stigma.